Hello and welcome to Identerati Office Hours. I'm your host, Mike Schwartz, founder of Glue. Today is episode 139. A quick reminder, please follow the live stream on LinkedIn. That really helps us. Our guest today is Sean O'Dell, co-chair of the OpenID Shared Signals Working Group. Sean's actually already in Identerati. He was on episode 91. So if you want to hear his personal background, check out episode 91. So welcome, Sean.
Thanks, Mike. Pleasure to be here as always. Looking forward to a fun conversation.
Yeah, and so Sean, you and Andrew Cameron gave the closing keynote at Identiverse this year and proposed sort of a new identity architecture. I forget the exact title. Perhaps it was something around continuous identity.
Yeah, it was something like the rise of continuous identity, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty close. Um, and you showed a diagram, and let me actually pull that diagram up. Let me try. I can get rid of the banner here. And so, yeah, this is this and I made a post about this on LinkedIn, which is in the episode notes, which got pretty good engagement. And so I thought it would be interesting to have a conversation about this, and also maybe talk a little bit about your work at Shared Signals Working Group. Actually, let me put this on ice for a second, and let's start there. Shared Signals Working Group is sort of chugging along, and I heard there was some news. Could you maybe just talk about that for a second?
We're shutting it all down. It's going away. Just kidding. It is officially, it's in final as of a couple days ago. Voting went well. We
What's
ensured a
in
lot of
final exactly?
Final means it's a stable V1 after many drafts, but it is a stable V1. It is an official ratified spec, so there's no more draft. It's locked
Is
in.
this which draft is it? Because I know there's CAPE and there's the
All three.
SSF.
All three. It's
All three.
great. Mike, here's $20. Thank you for seeing the question, right? It's CAPE, continuous access evaluation profile. It's risk incident sharing coordination. I hope Atul isn't smacked for getting that right or wrong. And then it's the actual SSF spec as well. So all three went V1 final.
Right.
The only big change was the TXM claim was a big change, and then it moved from string to non, or vice versa. I totally forget. And
Now it's a
we
string,
made
I think.
then we made some editorial changes, but it means we kind of got it right. It's just making sure we kick the tires around, make sure we had a bunch of feedback, and I mean the working group has been amazing to work with. I mean, co-chair is a blessing and a curse at the same time. That's a lot of work.
Atul and Shane, who are both
Yes.
they're the co-chairs, right?
Yeah, Shane and Atul put in a lot of time, like everybody else did. There's a lot of evangelizing conversations and working with big companies like Apple, like Okta, and others with Cisco, tons of them. But the interops are going great. The people who came together in the actual working group, so much feedback. It was so great. A lot of ideas, a lot of like, what if this, what if that. A lot of the conversation was implementation detail, which was kind of interesting. But that helped arrive at the right way to do it. So we think we got it right. It's final. Everyone's happy. I know Atul's sitting back on the beach somewhere drinking he's not, he's working still, but I mean, he's happy because this was his thing he created. So it's good to see your baby come to fruition. So we're all happy for him and happy together. So great. It's phenomenal.
And so, yeah, congratulations. And I think not that many changes is a good sign that the standard is stable enough to go to V1. So congratulations and
we're already working on 1.1, so don't worry.
Yeah. Well, I always say one of the reasons OpenID Connect is so successful is because it didn't change that much. And so that creates the room for library developers to come and write libraries and for third-party softwares to connect and write connectors.
Agreed.
So yeah, and Atul's also working on transaction tokens, which I might bring up later as a related OAuth draft, which I hear is also proceeding and getting closer to finalization.
I thought that as well, and I'm a huge fan of it. Tinkering with implementing it with where I work, and it's solving a lot of problems. I know I think Yahoo gave a talk about it at Identiverse. It was a great talk. If you haven't seen it,
That's right.
I'll try to fish out the link for you if it's on. I don't think it's on YouTube, but I
We
think
did
there's
an
a.
episode on it actually,
Oh, yeah, you got it.
and we dug a little bit deeper. Yeah, I was also at that presentation, and I was pretty excited about that use case. And it's a really good pattern. I mean, they used to accept the session cookie in their APIs, and now they have a infrastructure that says you automatically have to trade the session cookie for a transaction token. Their APIs no longer accept the session cookie, and they say sort of like SSL, the implementation of SSL, it just solved a lot of problems. And yeah, and we'll get
Right.
into it, but I wonder how transactions might fit in here. Let me bring the diagram back. So the topic we wanted to talk about today was this idea, and I thought this is a pretty provocative idea because enterprise runtime identity infrastructure doesn't change that much. So it is infrastructure because it's sort of the core stuff we rely on, like the OpenID authorization endpoint or backchannel endpoints like the token endpoint. Um, and the idea of the event hub is the idea that there's this hub that's going to take these new types of events and process them and do stuff with them. Um, and runtime stuff is generally asynchronous anyway. So an authentication workflow, for example, is asynchronous anyway. So the fact that it's asynchronous doesn't really seem that new. But the idea that this is some type of special purpose component that's doing this new purpose is new. So maybe you could just dive a little deeper. Let me put the diagram up for a second. I apologize for guests who are using their phone. It's a little hard to read these diagrams if you're looking at your phone. So we're going to talk through the diagram, but for those who have a big monitor, they can see it. And I'll just describe it also. So we have identity data coming in on the left um, and getting processed by the enterprise, I guess, and which could result in, let's say, a SCIM event, like maybe a person, your normal joiner, leaver, mover type of event might come through a SCIM event. But then there's a new set of events that might happen that we might detect, maybe an account takeover event or some other type of event that happens. And that results in these events being sent to this new piece of infrastructure called the event hub. And that event hub is going to have to do something with that information, which is what we're calling orchestration. But maybe let me let you have at it a little bit. And so, what does this event hub actually do?
You're doing a great job. I mean, you can keep going. You got this. I mean, but
I'm
just kidding, Mike.
running out of
So
stuff. So, oops,
I know the event
step
hub
running.
is meant the event hub is meant to be like a like AWS terms, like Kinesis fan out. It's one event to many. That way you don't have to worry about connecting to all your what I'm calling appliances systems, like your IDPs, your GitHubs, your GitLabs, your pick your poison, Salesforces, your ServiceNows. But what it's meant, the event hub is meant really to be a place where you can do evaluation, rules, and I'm going to use the word policy, which I know you love a lot, Mike. But policy in the fact that it's almost like the old school app of if this then that. If a token comes in that looks like a SCIM event that matches some criteria, which means you just got hired, I then need to provision you into these systems. That's one example. So to your point, that's about LCM, right? JML stuff. Let's flip it on this
That sounds a
security
little bit
side.
like a sale point IDM type process. So a person got hired. I need to connect to these systems and then do this provisioning in that
But the
system.
difference is SailPoint may work on an aggregation schedule where this is fluid in real time. This is real time activity because some companies, if you flip it, you may have compliance requirements or even controls where if you change locations, I need to revoke your access. And I'm not saying like kill your session. I'm talking like remove your actual entitlements or accounts from a system. But even like with compliance requirements, which is actually a requirement which could be a requirement for having an event hub, is upon termination or things that look suspicious, revoke the access, especially like if you're in healthcare or finance, as an example. And like what we're doing now is we're crossing the streams between security, like ITDR stuff, and provisioning identity lifecycle management stuff. So I want to be careful not to mix it, but both use cases apply. But in the example of the screenshot you showed, you can overlay the different HR events with risk signal, anomaly detection, an outlier that your data lake or your ML models would actually pick up. But the purpose of the event is that we get down to provisioning, access, and security is all the same thing. Use the event hub to, I hate using this term, orchestrate all of your real-time needs for IAM. It could be for provisioning, for access management, even authorization, and even security, because you're following the same pattern and the same framework.
So I guess I struggle a little bit because what is the sort of framework for, okay, so let's go break it down a little bit. So this event hub gets an event, a user gets added, and I need to do something. So we're going to define business logic in this event hub somehow. How would that work exactly?
It depends on, so every company will have their own rules. Like if you, like I'm a huge proponent of, I want one place for all my policies, all of them, because I just want to know if I'm governing correctly. I don't want to go to forces to see like, okay, this happens here, this happens there. Then you gotta worry about keeping them in sync, which is fun to do. But that notwithstanding, if you look at the event hub, I'm saying you could put policy and rules and evaluation in there. I think you should, because in order for the event hub to fire off the right way, how else would you know that let's use a security thing. Let's say you logged in from, I don't know, Kreplakistan, and usually you work out of not Kreplakistan. Your IDP or your organization finds that out. It's like, oh, this looks weird. Mike's doing something weird, or someone has Mike's stuff. An event is emitted. Just go with it for a second. You have an event coming into your event hub. Your event hub says, cool, I got an event. What do I do with it? So defining a rule. So rule and policy to me is almost synonymous, that if I get an event that is of this type, which is session revoke, that matches an actor, Mike, I know these systems need to know about this and perform an action. So that's why saying an event hub is a very conceptual term. If you had policy outside of it, for example, you could say, policy states, here are the tenants in which I want to action on. Now, perfect example, in the SSF world, you could put that into a subject of a set saying, here are the tenants, TENNANT, tenants. Sorry, it's like hard to say, tenants versus tenants, to action on. So you could move policy outside of it and make it more centralized, or put it in the event hub. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Everyone's gonna have a different level of maturity there. If you're all in on continuous identity, I think personally that's where you put all your policy, because it makes that like your orchestrator, and your sale point becomes just an actioner, an appliance, not really a for example, like let's take an IDP for example. You would use the IDP to revoke a session, but make it be an appliance and centralize all your stuff in that hub, and then make your data platform and your rules engines do all the hard work.
Okay, so I think this sort of fundamentally contradicts one of my core assumptions about security, which is zero trust, which is that policy is everywhere. You know, one of the ideas of zero trust is that if I go through, if I'm going to the Super Bowl, to get into the audience, I need one ticket, but to get into the locker room, I need a different pass or ticket.
Yep.
And so, and we don't rely on a central authority for policy, where consolidation could save money, and we can have we can try and say, okay, there's a lot of policy logic here. I still really want to see the policy everywhere. I want to see policy in the API, the policy in the API gateway and in the application
Yeah,
and everywhere, because I want that stream of policy.
I
But
agree.
I see your point about how there's a lot of enterprise. We could sort of consolidate in this one piece a lot of the business logic about identity events. And so this isn't the one place for policy, but maybe it's a consolidation point for policies having to do with identity events.
So this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to take us on a little bit of a journey here. You are not wrong in anything you just said. When I'm saying I want policy here, like I want to centralize it here, that doesn't mean I wouldn't distribute it elsewhere. So perfect example, you're a huge Cedar fan, right? You like Cedar. There's
Yeah,
nothing saying that, I'm sorry, Mike, what?
yeah, we're advocates, we're publicly advocating for Cedar because we like
Yeah,
the
no,
analyzability of Cedar. That's really
correct.
the goal.
I totally agree. So let's say you have policy written in this event hub. Again, and I'm speaking conceptual here because I'm trying to take
Yeah,
into account the totality of organizations as an implementer. There is nothing saying that if my source is a policy engine that you have custom written somewhere, or you're using some tool or some framework, that event hub is just going to distribute and orchestrate those policies to wherever it needs to go. It could be an EKS cluster, it could be in a gateway of some sort, it could be on a machine, it could be in an application as a sidecar. That's the point of the event hub. What I'm saying is in the event hub, it's going to say, if I see a policy event of this type coming in, I know my subscriptions need that. So think of the event hub also as like I'm gonna make someone happy saying this out loud, a pub sub hub that you need to know about things. So if a
yeah,
policy change happened, I may not send it to my IDP because they may not care about it. They just may not. But
yeah.
system A, B, and C might. So Mike, I'm all with you, but I'm saying policy from an orchestration standpoint is where I think it should go, but it's not like the de facto policy engine. So please, if I said that, I do not mean that by any means.
And that's actually probably a good clarification that you make, because when you call it a pub sub hub, then my prickles start to go up when I hear that, because I'm not sure we really want MQ for the internet. Or isn't there a lot of similarities between this approach of I'm going to make queues and I'm going to put messages on those queues and clients are going to async? Do we really want that? A message queue architecture today?
Yes, if it's done correctly, absolutely. It's how else would you deliver asynchronous events?
Um, well, so I wonder if this model is really the right model. If the overhead of getting clients to listen for messages is really like been that successful, and
No, I
whether it
was I
wouldn't be
was
better, yeah,
I was
uh,
alluding to the fact that, of what you're saying about the end all be all place for policy as how you would orchestrate delivering the events to recipients. That's what an event hub is. And it isn't listen to and deliver it because like shared signals, as you know, it can be push or pull.
yeah.
I like push versus pull, but that's the intent of this. Like it is a shared signals as a glorified, it's pub sub. That's all it is.
Hmm. So you're publishing events, and the events are these consolidated or represented by these security event tokens, right? Um,
Of some event
and
type, correct. Cape,
yeah,
risk, or skim, for example, yes. Or you could actually bring your own and build your own on it because it is extensive. Yes.
and we'll table push versus pull because I feel like I'm hesitant about push models in general. I see pull models really scaling better. So we'll table that. Let's just look at the tokens. So the token says this event happened. There was an account takeover at Yahoo on this account, and there's a similar account in Google, and it's two different domains, and therefore one domain is going to generate this event, um, and this other domain that trusts it is going to maybe pull that event and then be able to do some action on it. Is that the idea? Do I have it? Am I far off?
You're not far off. The only thing I would call out there is when you're looking at different trust domains, you have to assume there's a contractual or legal relationship between both those domains to make that happen, because sharing tokens across organizations has privacy implications. But as long as that's notwithstanding, good to go. But there is interoperability where I could see yours, you could see mine if I'm subscribed to you and you're subscribed to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. It's an interesting point. I raised this point to Andy Hindle on our, we were kind of nostalgically reminiscing about Identiverse, but we did talk about some technical stuff. And I asked him about trust. And, he also mentioned that he sort of downgraded the legal a little bit, because he said a lot of these partners probably have some in-place legal agreement already that might cover such a token transfer. Um, and this is really out of scope of the discussion, because you're right, this is a big issue. How do I trust these tokens from a foreign issuer? And you're getting into the federation area.
Correct.
And
But
so
it's the next evolution of this, to where if I have a hub and you have a hub, I mean, the first word in shared signals is shared, so sharing is caring. Haha. Identiverse topic from 2023, I think I did that on. And it's more about when you have like-minded companies in, I don't want to steal Justin's thunder here, but like bubbles, not like Justin's bubbles, but like domains. Like, this is huge in finance. Like, why wouldn't a finance company A and B want to share data about, hey, this is bad, someone's hijacking this from this area with cards, we should share, because it's for a common good, to fight fraud. And I think when you see the first two companies do that, you're going to see an exponential takeoff. But it's going to take two big players to actually do that. And I think we're kind of on our way on that. So I can't let it out details wise, but I think there's some things in the works from certain companies, but don't know.
And so your initial focus is more on the enterprise side for these security event tokens. What are some of the use cases that you see as really the most driving for this?
For the enterprise,
Yeah.
100% session management, session and device management, 100%. Device trust, device assurance, and session management, because it is, let's just say the SSO tax is real. It really is. SSO is super easy to use, but human beings are susceptible to phishing. They click buttons a lot.
Yeah.
So once I got your session, it's over. And that's where ITDR plays into this, where it's like, if you get telemetry from your IDP or IDPs that says, hey, Mike normally accesses these systems, and all of a sudden you go to that country and access like a system you should normally access, bye. That's where this Event Hub comes in and says, this looks abnormal. Maybe it's not abnormal enough, or the first one will be like, we'll just revoke all your sessions, and hopefully you've integrated with your IDP to where you can have central session management. Just cross fingers and say that that's the case. Otherwise, it'll destroy my use case. So, Mike, don't ask that question. If that happens, you're good to go. But then let's say it happens again. Now we can get even crazier and say, okay, add a risk event that this disables your account. Now you're out of the water. Now they can't touch anything. So that's where you can do step up, not auth, but step up eventing to say chained events like did session revoke. Oh, he's back again. Same IP, same area. We're not going to play anymore. We're just going to disable your account.
Yeah, it's interesting that it all seems to come back to logout and session management.
I know, right?
There was a very contentious internet identity workshop session recently about third-party cookies and logout, and we have our own ideas. There's a new OAuth standard called OAuth status list. Have you looked at this?
I have.
Yeah. And
There's a lot to
so,
read. There's a lot to read in the new areas, but like I've been keeping up with it.
yeah, yeah, and so this spec is kind of interesting because it's like a member certificate revocation list, CRLs. It's sort of like CRLs for JWTs, but it presents a way. It's a pull model because the IDP basically what the OAuth status list said was, you know what, people don't care about all the metadata. All they care about is the token good or not? And we can just use one bit to represent that. So in a relatively small amount of data, the IDP can publish the revocation status of all of its tokens. And so each token contains the address of the bit which we want to check. So it's a long standard, but that's basically what it amounts to. It's a more compact way to do revocation. And I wonder if rather than having some elaborate alerting mechanism that so the answer is, yeah, I love the ITDR like technology advances we've seen. We pitched our recent deal. We actually collaborated with an ITDR vendor because I think it is such an important thing to have a view of the identity events. But if the applications were better able, if we were able to take that ITDR, let's say, signal that that there's risk for this particular session, and invalidate that session, and and if the application is smart enough to say, okay, I can't trust this token forever, I'm going to make sure this token hasn't been revoked, then we wouldn't need some type of elaborate pub sub mechanism in order to
But
do
you
session management.
but you still would, and here's why. But it would be less about alerting 12 systems, and it would be pushed to one area, and then those 12 systems go reference that one area. That's the point you're trying to make. So you still would need this eventing hub to push to a central area where those apps all reference. Same difference. I
Yeah,
agree.
I, I think it's a fair point because the question is what is the interface to the ITDR system, right? So the ITDR system maybe detects a suspicious account. Maybe you trust your ITDR system enough to say, if you detect risk, just disable that session.
Yeah.
So the question is, well, there's a global logout, so potentially the ITDR could maybe log out, but it probably can't actually do it because the ITDR private key, public or primary key is the user ID. So it probably doesn't know enough about the token metadata in order to revoke the token, and probably
Mhm.
doesn't know anything about the session. So I think the question that
Yeah.
you're raising is, how does the ITDR actually notify the IDP to revoke that session or token?
You're hitting on a topic that we talked about ad nauseum in the working group. It's about subjects, and that's why there was such a focus on getting subjects right in shared signals. I'm a huge fan of complex subjects in alias format because if you work at an enterprise that's bigger than 1,000 people, you don't have a login, you have logins. You don't have an identifier, you have identifiers because you have snowflakes that want, like, I want my employee ID, or I want the GUID that represents you, or I want my email address, or I want the left name of my email address, or I want a mutated subject. The ITDR platform does not necessarily have to know the subject, but your data, your underlying data needs to know everything about you as a digital identity. And I'm saying that very loosely because I care less that it's you, Mike. I care how you are represented to systems. That's the key distinction there is
And
that,
what channel also, because it's not like it's me.
yeah,
It's more like
yes,
there's a piece of software that's asserting it's acting on my behalf, and we've
correct.
authenticated that software, and that software is presenting some type of token evidence to say this is that I'm acting on Mike's behalf. It's never me because I don't have, unlike Murderbot, I don't have a digital input. I'm not a
No,
construct or a.
not yet. Not yet.
Did you watch that
Coming soon,
show?
right? No, I did not, but I know what you're talking
Oh, you
about.
have to watch it. It's
I have
called
a list.
Murderbot.
I have a
He
list.
doesn't
I
murder
have a
anybody, actually. He's a murder
okay.
prevention bot. But it has a lot of great analogies that I keep talking about. He has a thing called the governor module, um, and there's a lot of overlap in our industry between policy management and whether you need to send it to the edge. Anyway, highly recommend. But getting back to the topic, though, um, Yeah, it's not me who's connecting. There are tokens that have been presented, and somehow you don't necessarily want to disconnect all my sessions. I have a phone session, maybe that's good. It might just be this browser session that's coming from from Myanmar
Yes.
that's not that good. So
So I want to hit on something you said right there. And I think this is where it gets into the consumer realm versus the workforce realm. I use the analogy a million times, and everyone laughs at it. Everybody streams, some show, some platform, doesn't matter where. It is so annoying that you have to type in your password into that TV,
on
and
your remote,
everyone does it and swears like,
yeah,
swear at it, because I'm going to be provider agnostic here, because that's the best place to be. But I've broken 3 remotes over. I'm like, I swear to you, this is the right password, and I'm like, I'm going to break this thing, right? So what this can do now, to your point, is, hey, I know Mike and Sean stream usually from their home location. Um, Detection controls aside, if I happen to have it leaked somewhere on a new device, and I'm running a VPN that says I look like I'm in the States,
yeah,
that kills your session, but it maintains the 19 TVs you and I have collectively that says you can still stream. I'm not going to kill your user experience, but Myanmar, bye, you're gone. That's the applicability here for device level is crazy. I love it. I love it for that reason. Now, you said something else. We talked about this before, like what would be requirements for an event hub? And I want to hit on a few things that we talked about, because I think there's a couple of good parallels here. Uh, you have to know your data. You have to have a concept that identity is living, and it's context aware stream of signals before, during, and after any events. It's very important that you know your data. And I'm not saying you have to know it to like the nth degree and be like a savant on it, but you have to understand your data points, what they mean, and understand what event A versus event B means, which gives you into a nice segue into your integration points. This is the execution area of modern IAM. And those of you who are listening, modern IAM is something that Ian Glazer put out on his Weave blog, with a bunch of us helping to contribute to it. But it was more Ian publishing the article. It's data orchestration. I want to say policy again, Mike. So don't shoot the messenger. And then execution. Now, this next point we're going into is know your integration points or systems. This is the execution area, because, like you said, Mike, earlier, um, push versus pull, event driven, and modernization of IAM. There are some systems and some SaaS solutions that cannot handle multi-threading, and you have to throttle. You have to rate limit. It's very important to understand your integrations and failure points and cape haha abilities. That was for you, Mr. Kaiser.
Um, so I actually wanted to talk a little bit about, you mentioned know your data.
Yeah.
And so I know people make fun of me for pushing TBAC. And TBAC, whenever you make a new access control, that is a trope. Like, it's a trope that everyone gets to shoot down. You're a thing that's not going to get any traction. Um, but I do it more as a talking point, because I think we need alternatives to our existing, let's say, prevalent role-based access control
Yeah.
security outlook, and in general our identity-based outlook. The role is representative of an identity, and from a governance standpoint, we govern who can do what. Um, but when you say know your data, it sounds to me like you're saying that instead of looking at it from a person down level, I'm looking at it from a data down level. And the data to me represents more of, we don't represent data with people or roles. So it sounds like you're moving to a more capability or asset based, like, inventory of things. But what are your thoughts on this, and like sort of how we move from where we are to a better way that covers more of what we need?
It's it's a journey. My background is more in engineering, and I've always been a data nerd. so it's fine for me. But having a great collaboration and partnership wherever you work with data engineers that, I mean, know data engineering, like to the point where every fifth word they say you have to go look up or ask your favorite bot of choice. Mix them with identity professionals, and you get like a match made in heaven. And here's where and you hit it nail on the head. Where I'm going with it is, like from a data standpoint, it's who accessed what on what day, on what device, at what time. That's easy. Great. Flip it now. What was accessed from where, to what source, to what system? That's the asset approach. You need both. You do. You need to look at the who and the what, not just who anymore. You're absolutely correct. Because you could derive different signals, pun not intended, but it worked pretty well, from asset-based anomalies versus identity-based anomalies. And you can very much so do that. But you are right.
I want to talk a little bit about policy. I actually think like RBAC tools could use, for example, CEDAR, right? Or Rego, or so the strategies, the access control strategies are neutral about the policy syntax, really. Um, what I see as interesting about the policy syntax is that the number of policies, like we talk about it, we use sample sort of anecdotal policies, but the true number of policies is vast, right? We could be talking about hundreds or thousands of policies that then correspond to some type of security governance requirements, maybe SOC 2 or ISO 27001. So the challenge that I see on the policy side is, and I'm going to pull AI in here a little bit, is that AI is generating a lot of our policies, and AI hallucinates like crazy. I find so many mistakes in the
No,
policies. And so I feel like in order to check, no, and I'm all for this because AI is productive, and I think this is the best way to do it. The best IDE or better than drag and drop is to tell AI to just generate it for you, right? Um, but we need some type of really some check that proves to us that the policies are the same, that there was 700 policies in version 1. We upgraded to version 1.1. Now there's 800 policies. So the things that I thought were true in version 1 are still very true in version 1.1. And so the level of sophistication about the policy analysis has gone up to a level where we need better tools. And I don't see what other options there are. But maybe you could talk about some of the challenges around just like the number of policies and how do we go about managing these policies. And so if the event hub is going to manage these policies, my question is like, how?
the event hub is going to use the policies to orchestrate. Let me be very clear on that. So managing policies is a different scope here, but I'll bite. You're talking about intent and provenance, correct?
Intent and so, say again, what was the second?
You're talking about intent and provenance of the policy, and how can you make sure that the policy is doing what it should do, correct?
Okay, I'll go with that. I generally think of provenance as can I trust the token and can I trust the delivery of the policy store more than um,
Keep going.
but if you're saying that the intent and capability are used very similarly. So what do I want to do? What
Okay.
do I intend to do? And then the
Yep.
provenance of, I'm not sure which provenance you're talking about actually.
No, and I was trying to clarify what you were asking because I words matter to me in my head, and I may think of a different word differently than you. So you actually made it pretty clear for me. That is not funny. That's not the intent, of the event hub here. But you're saying that if you're going to put policy in there, how the heck do you manage it? Correct?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, much like role sprawl and account sprawl and all those lovely IAM buzzwords that you're going to hear if you read Gartner stuff or talk to whoever about things. This is where I think you can use AI. like being honest with you. It's to keep yourself and keep your policies factually accurate. It was ML, but I think this is a great agentic use case as a watchdog agent, if you will. Like, you're smiling. You're
I'll tell you
smiling.
why I'm fine.
Am I going?
Because I asked, I've been iterating on this new design spec, and I asked AI to go through the design spec and find all the errors in the, for something, and
Yeah.
it didn't. And I'm like pissed. I'm like, it should know this stuff perfectly. Why didn't it find the error? And
No.
one of the engineers from Amazon looked at it and she was like, "Oh, it has to be get tag, not tag." Like, but I'm like, so I've just like, I love the productivity of AI, but I worry about but I worry about AI like telling me I'm so great. It's like, yeah, great point, Mike. I did make a mistake. Now let me fix it. And now that just worries me.
So I'm going somewhere with this. I don't want to use it for auditability. I want to use it for efficacy. So if I say I have 10 policies,
Yeah,
air quote this, 10 policies, and they're duplicative in some areas, maybe it will tell me, hey, I've noticed that the resulting end set of your population base gets you access to 100 systems.
yeah,
And then you could draw Venn diagrams, if you will. And if the overlap is so great that these 10 policies can be reduced to 5, that to me is a win. And that's where I think you can control the drift, especially when you want to release this as an enterprise scale, because everyone's a snowflake, everyone has their own requirements, and you're going to come up with like 55,000 policies. There's ways to do this in a prescriptive manner. Again, outside of the scope of this conversation, but I love talking about this all day of the week. You're going to have to get to a point of control and balance. If someone says, I want this policy, but plus this one more thing, that's a new policy, just the way it is. But how you govern that and manage it and trust it, you're going to have watchdog. I'm saying watchdog agents as like
yeah,
a buzzword, like a box thing, but it is going to take required effort and work to go look at this and say, okay, here's what I expect. Here's what it's doing. What's the drift,
yeah.
if there's any? And if there's any unintended access, you're going to have that in. I know everyone loves AI, but you're going to need a human in the loop for a while until you get this down pat.
Right, and I think there are like so many great applications for AI here to like say, look at these 10 transactions, right? And now as a human, I'm way more productive. So I'm all for this. I think this is going to be very, um, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
productive and enable us to see things we weren't able to see. But I think there has to be a balance of in security. We need to balance productivity and determinism, and to comply with like ISO and SOC requirements, we want determinism. We want to say yes, we never violate this, and we also want to make statements about the future. That we have these policies that will prevent this from ever happening. Not just it didn't happen, but it will never happen. So well, okay, we're sort of at the end here. I like to stay on time. We're 2 minutes over, which is guess probably my fault for going off course. Why don't any last thoughts or anything you want to promote? Next steps? You have the floor.
Yeah. Actually, I think after Identiverse, I had a lot of feedback, LinkedIn, email, lots of email about continuous identity and what Andrew and I were pitching in our keynote. And there's a group of us, um, George from McDonald's, Jen Schreiber from Workday, Andrew Cameron from GM, everyone knows Hutch, and myself. We formed a little identity in depth team where we're partnering up with Identity Underground, and we're going to start publishing blogs there and on my site as well, seanidentity.com. We're working towards it. We're starting to get a few things in motion, but the big partnership's there. And Andrew and I are also going to be doing a 4-part. I think it's a 4-part webinar with Heather on ID Pro on continuous identity and the crossover with modern IAM. That's the data, orchestration, policy, and execution parts. We're going to go pretty deep in depth, hence identity in depth. to not give you the boxes and arrows approach. We're going to give you how you'd actually do it. Like, what should your data look like? How would you architect that, and go a little bit deeper. The other aspects of identity in depth are going to focus on other things, like you talked about, Mike. Like, someone may pick a topic on transaction tokens, and they may give you reference architecture on how to do it and how you would build it. So this is very much the Identiverse is great. The practitioners want, how do I do this now? Like, this is a great idea. This is a great, see that you're doing it. Help me do this myself. And I think that's what we're gonna. The 5 Marvel team up people and myself have said, okay, we'll do it. So that's coming soon.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I will definitely be watching and reading, and then might bug you later about wanting to drill down on some of those topics.
Never buggy, man. You always ask fun questions. You never ever bug me.
So next Tuesday we're off, actually. So I'm attending a conference. It's an open search conference, and kind of a different conference for me. Open search is the open source fork of the Elastic database. It's used by Amazon, for example, hosts open search, but also there's other versions. And we wrote a demo plugin for OpenSearch that does document level security using CEDAR policies. And it uses tokens as input. So basically you present a query or search query to OpenSearch, you give it your tokens, we look at the policies, and we return back documents filtered based on the policies. So it's a simple demo. I'm actually going to present that because I think, Sean, I'm with you about how important the data is. And part of me says, let's start with securing the data. And so we're
hang on.
we're looking at, we haven't decided whether this is a product. This is just open source demo right now. I don't know that I want to re-release this plugin for every future release of OpenSearch forever. So I'm just warning people, this is just a demo. But we're also looking at a Postgres extension. We're writing a Postgres extension. And so I don't know, I'm with you, Sean, about how important the data is, and how I think, I still think about layers, and where we have the edge of the network, which would be like the phones and the browsers, and we have the middle of the network, which is like the API gateways and the IDPs. And then we have this other side of the network, which is the database. And I think that we have resigned ourselves to shitty security on the database. And I'm really interested in figuring out if we can maybe start from that direction and work our way out into the infrastructure and to the edge. So anyway, I'm going to present what we did, and hope that is thought-provoking for people. And so no episode Tuesday. Then a week from today, we're coming back with this special episode on our CEDAR demo. And with that, I will say thank you, Sean, so much. Thank you, audience, and we'll see you next time.
It was a pleasure.